You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darrell Kinsey Jr. welcoming you, taking a lap of the extra mile for today, July 21st, 2022. And folks, it was a hot one on the track, and it is a hot one today in the D.C. area. Heat index is over 105. If you're going out to any races this weekend, please make sure, drink plenty of water, or better yet, do not go outside this weekend. It is not worth the heat stroke and the heat exhaustion, so please be careful. But to help me talk about this weekend, get you ready for this weekend, and also beating the heat, are my good co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward.
Hello, everybody. Sorry I missed you guys last week.
It's okay, Michael. It's okay.
Yes, we're glad to have you back, and we are glad to to have all of you listening as well. If you're listening live, make sure to get your comments in on the chat. We will read those out on the show as it goes on. And we're going to go ahead and quickly get started because we've got a boatload of NASCAR news to get to and not enough time to do it in. So we will get started with, starting with the race in New Hampshire, where Christopher Bell ends up picking up the win, out-duels Chase Elliott in the waning laps. But the big story coming out that race is Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr., third and fourth in points, are in danger of being on the outside looking in because we now have that 14th unique winner of the season, and it was neither one of those drivers. Truex led the most laps of the race, but a decision to come down and pit, take two tires, got that car mired back in traffic, as well as with Kevin Harvick, who also took a big hit in his playoff chances. Martin Truex Jr. has had a quietly consistent season, but he is now on the brink, and Ryan Blaney joins him on the bubble of the playoff grid. And there's been a lot of complaints about third and fourth in the points, not having a chance to go for the championship. However, and I'll kick it to Chris first, if this is the old system, they wouldn't be going for a championship anyway.
Yeah, or at least unlikely they would be. Chase has quite a commanding lead over Ross Chastain in second. I think it's right about 60 points. I think it's a little under. But either way, I mean, 60 points is a big lead to have. We're, halfway through the season, or at least getting close to it. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're over halfway, but yeah, I mean Chase has got 60-some points, and he shows no sign of slowing down. He's been Mr. Consistent all year. He hasn't been stealing the show, grabbing, he hasn't been running towards the front or in the front all season long and stuff like that. But he's been consistently finishing top 10. Getting good points days, and back in the day before the playoffs, that was what you had to do. You didn't have to go out and win 10 races to win the championship. You just had to finish well every single week, and you did much better than the guys who had 10 wins. So Chase's consistency, I think he'd run away with this championship in the old format.
Well, currently he's 67 points up over Ross Chastain. Joey Logano is actually, let's put this in order, by the actual points, not the playoff ranks. He's 67 over Ross Chastain, 78 over on Blaney, and Martin Truex Jr. is 115 back. They would not be in the discussion for any sort of championship right now, and that's why the playoffs came to be. As many people want to hate this, NASCAR has 36 races, and with us racing every week, the leads get out here to the point where once you got to the summer, the guy who was leading, barring a massive collapse, ran away with the championship, and people tuned out the last 10 races. Now, people are going to be engaged in those last 10 races to see who's going to win the championship. However, if you want to be in a driver in that championship, you got to meet the conditions. And right now, Truex and Blaney, they've had good seasons, but they haven't met the conditions. And Michael, we never thought we'd get here to ever see 16 unique winners. So in most years, they wouldn't be in danger. But this new car has created so many more avenues for people to get wins, where it's now put these drivers in a situation where it is red alert going into the last month and a half of the season.
Yeah, this new car, this whole season, I think a couple weeks ago we actually put out a poll asking if there's going to be if the 16 different winners mark was going to be met, and it has. And I think it's crazy, but it's definitely, for those teams that haven't won, it's definitely make or break time. And who knows, it might not be over. We still have a lot of surprise winners who can still win their way in.
Yes.
So,
absolutely, we still got a couple. We got Watkins Glen, we got Richmond, Daytona. We've got quite a few races, and I think we'll hit 17 or 18 if I'm putting my money anywhere. I think we'll see some guys with a win not make it in, and
at that point
could be Blaney and Truex too. My guess is one of those two doesn't get in.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, I think it's likely, because we still have Daytona coming up. I think we're going to have a wild card winner there. That automatically knocks out one driver. It just determines what's going to happen at these other races. Or maybe Blaney and Truex can be those last two winners, and it pretty much locks out anybody else except for drivers that can get, or that are higher in points than the last person that would be in on wins. And right now, the winners, that's going to be hard to do, obviously. As you look at the lowest driver with a win is Austin Cindric. He won the Daytona 500. He is 13th in points. Actually, Denny Hamlin is the lowest on wins in points. He's got the 2 wins, but is in 19th. Anyone higher than him that would win would knock him out of the playoffs. So that is how that would work. We would start whittling down from the guys lowest in the points. But they got to find a win. And that is all and well to it with how the system works. The only way you lock yourselves in is you either A, win the regular season championship, or you win a race. So we shall see what happens going on into this upcoming week at Pocono. As we also look at the standings in New Hampshire, there's a car there in third that I was not expecting at all. Bubba Wallace had a great day in New Hampshire. That team qualified fourth. They ran in the top 10 all day. They had no pit crew issues, no errant spins, no meteors hitting the track, and specifically hitting the 23. It was a normal race for them, and they showed that when they can get out, or when luck isn't dealing them a bad hand, they got a pretty fast race car.
Yeah, they had a pretty fast car that weekend.
Mm-hmm. And 2311 as a whole, as the 45 also up front, and of course that brought out some comments from a specific part of the community that we are not going to discuss right now, because it would just be, at this point, worthless to do so.
Yeah, though that crowd they don't need any of our airtime, that's for sure. We have a very limited amount of time to talk good things and the bad things, but those things have no place here. I'd rather talk about how I got a bug on me, sorry. I would rather talk about 100 other things than that specifically.
Yeah. Well, one thing we definitely can talk about is the upcoming Chicago street race. Unfortunately, we are going to have a conversation about that. We'll get to that in a minute. Mayor Lightfoot joined NASCAR officials and Bubba Wallace in Chicago earlier this week to announce that a 3-year deal has been inked for a street race to happen in Chicago. This will be the first one for the Cup Series. The NASCAR has had a street race before when NASCAR Winston West in LA back in the day. Black Flags Matter actually put up a video about it. It was Well, it was an eventful race. I won't call it a good race, but guys, what's your feeling about this with NASCAR heading to a street course?
I am 100% in opposition. I don't think that this is going to be a great race. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But to me, it just seems like it's going to seem boring from a fan perspective because it's not going to look like these cars are going faster on that circuit, right? Mm-hmm. These are big, meaty cars, and they're not particularly fast in tight confines. You know, you're talking any road course. Look at Sonoma. They get going on some longer stretches, but then there are some portions of the track that are slow and kind of boring to watch. And I know that they designed this course to be kind of more wide open with a little bit with generous corners, but still, you're talking about there are some 90s that they have to hit, and to get these cars turned, it's a slow process, and I think that this is going to be underwhelming for NASCAR, to be completely honest with you. And I look for this to probably be a 3-and-out type of deal. I just don't think it's going to be as popular as NASCAR thinks it will. And this is another instance of NASCAR fans probably not realistically knowing what they want.
I am indifferent about it. I will definitely check it out. I'm kind of excited. It is a new thing. We always do want new. I'm hoping that it works out. But if it doesn't, not much we can do about it. But I do want to talk about one thing. There's been a lot of comments about crime in Chicago. And I'm going to ask you guys to back up because I'm going to get on my soapbox for a moment. I need the Republican dog whistling on the Chicago crime from this fan base to shut up. The part of Chicago this race is going to is nowhere near where the actual issues of the crime is. And if you're going to speak on the crime in Chicago, you better be talking about it in High Point, North Carolina, which is one of the 34th on the most dangerous cities lists in the country. You better be talking about it in Charlotte, where they have similar crime issues, and that's where all of NASCAR is. And you dang sure better be talking about it in Daytona, where there's also a big crime issue in that city. But we don't talk about it in those cities, but we love to talk about it in Chicago. I know why. I'm not going to say it on this program because I'm already wading a lot deeper into it than I want it to, but it's because most of the people in those cities I named look more like Chris than they do myself or Michael. And while we're on the matter of the issues with Chicago, this race is going to be locked down like Fort Knox. That is what they do with all these major events. So there's not going to be a giant crime issue. But since we're on the topic, if you want to talk about the crime in Chicago or Baltimore, where we had an IndyCar race, or any other major urbanized city in this country, you better start that conversation with the decades and decades of racist policies that have led to the African American areas ending up the crime-infested holes that you like to refer it to, because it didn't get that way by choice. And when you disenfranchise a group of people since the day this country was built, you cannot sit there and blame them or blame the party that you don't like when this country is the one that started it, when they decided that folks that look like myself and Michael and Bubba Wallace and Bill Lester and Roger Carruth and all the other African-American drivers were 3/5 of a man. Start the conversation there, then I'll hear your stupid behind opinion on the crime in Chicago. And as I get off my soapbox, we will move on from this conversation and head into an electrifying event that's going to be happening at the LA Coliseum, as some information leaked about plans for the upcoming Clash, where they're going to trial run electrified Cup cars in a companion series at the Clash. Now, this race will run before the actual event. Guys, they've been talking about this electrification for a while. I'm excited, and I know we started with Chris a couple of times, so we'll go, Michael, you first. Are you excited about the potential NASCAR electrified Cup race?
I am 100% on board with that. I think electrified racing is very fun. You look at Formula One, what they've been doing with Formula E. That's been fun. Crazy at times, but it's been fun. You look at the, I think it's the Baja. It's not the Baja, but it's like a Dirt E series where Hamilton and Rosberg, they have their own teams there, and that's been great to watch. So NASCAR getting on board the electric train, I think it's great. I think it's going to be fun. I love seeing these teams and these sports try to look at electric racing because in the long run, it's going to be great for our planet. So I'm on board with it. I don't know if anybody else is on board with it, but I'm definitely on board for a technological change like this.
Yeah, that's the one thing about it. We do have to change how we race if we are going to continue to race. And you see it all around. Every motorsport is thinking about hybridization or electrification. We see it with the GTPs and hypercars in the WEC. We have Formula E. We have a Moto E with MotoGP. All these series are thinking about electrification or hydrogen or some sort of alternative fuel source in some sort of way because that's where the community is going. Hey, Arthur. He just joined us here in the chat. He will be up right after us, the Bayou Bulletin, so make sure you check it out. Arthur, we got to connect so we can get you on here one week to talk about NASCAR and things. I know we forgot this week. I had a busy week at work, but we will make that happen, my friend. Tough break for Harvick this week, by the way. That guy cannot catch a break this year. He's 69 points behind in the championship, or behind on the playoff cutoff line, and that is not nice for him. But anyway, I had to. I'm excited about the... I had to. It was there. I'm excited. I'm excited about the whatever they decided to call it, electrified NASCAR exhibition, and I hope they do more of these races at some events in 2023 and 2024. Chris, what?
It's gonna open the. I'm sorry to block Chris off, but it's gonna open the driver market up a little bit too. So people who can't drive in NASCAR can drive in NASCAR.
Well, I don't know about all of that because I don't know how official this is going to be because it sounds like right now it's just going to be like a test thing. I don't think there's going to be any points awarded. So
yeah, it sounds like it's purely going to be exhibition races. And that was actually going to be one of my biggest questions about this. I'm all for it. I think it's great. I love the idea of it. I think it's awesome that we're targeting 2023 for it. Excuse me. But my question was going to come down to drivers. Are we just going to look at like each team fields one electric car and then puts, like a rotating cast of drivers, like the Gibbs, each four drivers would take a, race, and Hendrick the four, and Penske, blah, blah, right down the line. Or is it going to be more like Chevy builds a couple for, and so on. And then, or are we just going to get unknowns that, maybe some Xfinity drivers or trucks or, that'll be my biggest question, but it would be pretty awesome to see, current Cup guys running that like on Saturday night or something, before or after the Xfinity race, just a quick exhibition, 25-30 laps or something. I hope it's Cup people personally. I think that's the only way that NASCAR will really be able to sell this is if the Cup guys like Blaney and Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch and Joey Logano get behind these cars and like them. That's the only way that NASCAR will sell it.
Well, you can't put Kyle Busch in there because you know he's not going to like it. He doesn't like any of the new cars, but that's a conversation for another day.
That instant torque, though, I mean, you touch the gas, you're moving, and I think the NASCAR drivers would like that. And that's something that a lot of people, I can already tell you what their profile picture looks like on Twitter, right? We all know what it is. Sunglasses sitting in their truck. Those guys absolutely are going to hate it no matter what. It can provide better racing, which I think it personally would, just because you have that instant torque, you have more horsepower. Actually, you'll have more tire drag, which tires will come into it because, like, even a Toyota Prius can rip tires off a car, right? Yep. If they're an electric, that instant torque really strains tires out. And I think that electric cars will be the way of the future, and I think it's going to make strategy a lot bigger of a call.
Yep. And as we're continuing, of course, this network could not continue without the generous help of the Southern Warriors semi-pro football team. Make sure you check them out on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram is Southern California _Warriors, and Facebook Southern California Warriors. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring IE Sports Radio. And Michael, while we wait for Chris to return, we've been talking a lot about this sustainable. We've heard the term sustainability so many times, I think our eyes are going to roll back in our head, probably about as much as we've heard blockchain over the last few years. But it is an important topic, especially for motorsports, which obviously, in our biased opinion, gets an undeserved bad rap as far as what we do to the planet. And the only way we're going to change that is by changing, of course, the power sources with which we race. And with these races, we should be able to spur a little bit of development here.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the most required thing. We have to change. Like, things aren't getting any better. For Christ's sakes, Great Britain is literally on fire. But
yep, I saw that this week.
And I didn't even think it was possible for Great Britain to get that hot, but it is. And so I think now we got to push these changes along and, start integrating. It's for the sake of the planet, guys. We all love our racing. We all love the sound of screaming engines, but, we also like being able to live. So I think these changes are just they're going to suck at first, but I think we'll learn to adapt and, just have fun with them. A lot of guys, when they took away the V10s in F1 or the V8s, they got a little annoyed. But, as time went on, we got on with it. So, it's just when the day comes, it's just going to be something we all have to adapt. And, after a while, it's just going to become the next best thing.
I mean, we've got, speaking of the temperatures here, we've got projected for this weekend here in Maryland, heat indexes above 100 degrees. Over 105 in some places. We don't get that very often. So, this is an issue that has to be dealt with.
So, I just looked up the hottest day on record in the United Kingdom, Michael, because you brought it up. And the hottest day on record was July 18th, 2021. And apparently it was localized to the Silverstone circuit, and specifically the Red Bull Garage produced the hottest day on record, with Christian Horner losing his shit, causing a weather phenomenon. Second hottest days in England these days.
Powerful.
That man caused a weather anomaly.
Yeah, he was very angry.
Was it due to Mercedes?
Here's a little ASMR.
Oh, I didn't pick it up.
Oh, that was me opening a can, folks.
Yeah, it for some reason it didn't pick up the sound of the can. I was waiting for it. That sucks. But anyway,
I think Christian Horner can do a Thanos snap if he just sees a Mercedes.
Speaking of Christian Horner, how
I think
upset
Christian
is he going
Horner
to be?
I think Christian Horner is climate change.
Oh, Lord, let's not start that conspiracy. But speaking of Horner, that can keep us going right along here. With Formula One about to crack down on the flexible floor issue and Mercedes catching up, we're going to see probably a lot more talking out of Red Bull. And, Chris, you brought this up. There is a hot take, I'm pretty sure by WTF1, asking whether or not Lewis Hamilton was going to get the win this weekend because of, the hot temperatures in France, and Red Bull does not do that great with tire degradation, as we saw in Austria, not to mention the Mercedes is getting faster and their porpoising issues are solved.
And
I do not think
that like to catch fire.
Yeah, the Ferraris are about as reliable as a Ford Pinto.
You would keep them out of this.
Ferraris are literally dumpster fires this year.
I was hoping you guys would just keep them out of this. But
I will not be taking questions at this time. Thank you.
We kind of have to talk about it, Michael. But anyway, I think I want to call it a hot take because I don't think the car is there yet. But I think they will be in position if Verstappen and Checo have those issues with tire deg and one of the Ferraris has a blow up, because these hot temperatures are not going to be nice to those cars. They're not going to be nice to any of the cars. But we already know the Ferrari is fragile. It's going to be an issue for them this weekend, and we might see some engine failures. Yep, and we have to see whether or not Sainz will have to take any penalties this week. I don't think he's taking any extra out of his allotment, but he's going to have to take a penalty at some point, because I don't think any of those parts were salvageable from the fire.
I think what we're going to see, and it's going to be telling for the rest of the season, is what Ferrari does with Carlos Sainz. Mm-hmm. So and they should, but if they don't make him play the team game for Charles Leclerc, this is over. But if there comes a point where Carlos Sainz is in the lead, Charles Leclerc could get let by without causing, somebody else to catch up and possibly take the lead. If Ferrari does not switch those two, championship over. Which I don't think they will. I think that they are going to allow Carlos Sainz to race Charles Leclerc because they do not have the spine to stand up to Carlos Sainz.
And
I don't understand where that came from. And I'm sorry, Michael, for cutting you off. I'll let you back in a minute. I don't understand where that came from, because this was the team that told Rubens Barrichello to pull over on the final lap of the race. Not just the final lap in Austria, on the front stretch, to let Schumacher in and win. This is the team that literally told Barrichello one corner from... No, not Barrichello. I'm sorry. I think that was Felipe Massa. One corner from the win, hey, let Schumacher through. And now all of a sudden, they can't figure out using Sainz as a number two?
Let us all also not forget, Fernando is faster than you.
Yeah. This is the one team that never allowed its drivers to race. Now you choose the time to buck your tradition? Really, guys?
I think what's going on is, because I watched a video talking about Ferrari and their actions. Mm-hmm. It seems like Ferrari don't want to go back to that route. And I'm sorry to say, in motorsports, sometimes you have to play the villain.
I mean, you got to play the villain because you're costing your number one driver the chance of the championship. And, oh, by the way, Mercedes is a factor again.
Yep. Absolutely.
So you kind of have to play the villain. And you're going to have to play the team game, because I like Sainz, but he is no Leclerc. And to be honest with you, I think the championship is kind of done and dusted. The main reason why I think the championship is done and dusted is that it's gonna take an engine failure or something to get them back in the fight. And Verstappen's been solid. As much as I hate to toot that man's horn, he's been really solid. So I think the championship's done and dusted. But
it's definitely going to be.
They can definitely still try to win races.
I mean, I think if Max doesn't, Checo does. Really, I mean, Ferrari lost this championship as soon as Max basically started clawing back at that lead.
Yep.
Yeah, and the reliability came into question. If the reliability didn't,
they lost it before the reliability, in my opinion, and I've been saying that since the third race of this season, that Ferrari would lose this championship to Red Bull.
They lost it.
I think it's the reliability.
Well, they lost the strategy game before that. Now the question is, what does Mercedes play in all of this?
I think we gotta wait until this weekend, because every time we say Mercedes can win a race, they don't win a race. So,
well, I don't think they're going to win a race. I don't think they're going to win this weekend. I already said that, but they're going to start taking points off, because they've started getting podiums. They've had 4 in a row. They're going to start chipping away at those spare points to keep up with Verstappen that Leclerc and Sainz were getting. Now, if Lewis goes on a 2021 run on steroids and wins out, ends up winning the championship, which I don't see happening at all, by the way.
I think he's too far back. I think he could finish second or third for sure. But I don't know. I think first is too far off for pretty much anybody but Checo and maybe.
Like I said, there needs to be an engine fail. Max needs an engine failure or something.
Or what the rest of the field needs is Red Bull to not be able to respond to this flex floor. That's the only thing that saves this field, is if Red Bull, if that flex floor, and pardon my French, fucks that car up. That's the only way. That's the only way the rest of the field catches Red Bull.
Yeah, it's 101 points back to Lewis. That's insurmountable, I think, unless these flexi floor changes screw that car up, as you said. But even then, if it's,
I
think Red Bull still score points with both drivers every race.
Yeah, like if Max scores points every race, even if it's not first or second, he can still.
Even if he's picking up 10 points a race, he's still maintaining a gap, and there's not enough time left for Lewis or anybody to really come up.
That's why I'm like, you fumbled the bag. Like, fumbled the bag, really.
Red Bull would need to start, as we said, either crashes or catastrophic engine failures over the second half of the season. That's the only way Mercedes gets back into it. Ferrari has a chance, but I think Ferrari's going to lose second in the Constructors' Championship. I think they're going to finish third again. I really do. And I think that's going to be Binotto sacked if he can't convert into a championship at this juncture, because they had the fastest car coming in, and to steal a phrase from the Brits on Sky TV, they've absolutely bottled it. And if you're a Sky View customer, you can hit the red button and go back and look at all the highlights of the season where they have bottled it as well.
If you're a Sky Glass or Sky Q customer, press the red button.
Is
anyone
over
highlights highlights from this podcast?
Yeah. If I don't know if Matt White is going to listen to this, but when he does anybody actually hit that stupid button?
This was on TikTok.
I think about it every week.
I think I sent it to you guys. It was
on TikTok and Twitter
that said, if you're a Sky Glass customer, can you please tell us what the red button does? And somebody stitched it and was like, yeah, here you go. The listeners can't see what but this lady shows on the TV, and you can do all sorts of different stuff. It just shows highlights though, so you can see you can see overtakes, anything that's brought out, like yellow flag, safety cars, anything like that. You don't get like a montage of stuff. It's literally like almost like for our American listeners, if you go watch highlights from like a football game or something, you just see a couple bigger things. That's all it is.
That sounds really underwhelming.
Yeah, that sounds underwhelming for what
it very much is. It's like watching the score, the box score. It's like watching like the American football teams just score touchdowns. It's like basically all it is.
Yeah.
So while we're sitting here, while we're talking about Ferrari, I just saw something, and I want your opinions on this. On Facebook, someone asked, would a Ferrari manufactured car win in the Cup Series? Okay, first of all, why the hell is Ferrari making a Cup Series car? That's definitely not their clientele. Two, probably not, because the rules are so constrained with how the next-gen car is done now, it wouldn't work out.
Yeah, it's not like you'd have a, Ferrari and the place where the Ferraris, and we're not just talking like Formula One cars, but Ferraris are very advanced in their suspensions.
Yeah.
And so that's where they really make up a lot of their performances in their suspensions and their powertrain. And then they just build a beautiful looking sports car around it. But what you're paying for when you buy a Ferrari is the suspension and the engine. Right? You can go buy a luxury car from anybody, but you can't buy a Ferrari. And in NASCAR, you would not get a Ferrari. You would get a Chevy Camaro with a engine cover that's red and has Ferrari.
Yeah, at best.
That car would be a Ferrari in engine cover only.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they would do NASCAR. I can see them doing IndyCar, but not NASCAR.
IndyCar would be interesting, but again,
IndyCar
you're not
would
getting
definitely
the Ferrari.
be interesting.
You're just getting the Ferrari name is all you're getting.
Yeah, you're just getting the Ferrari badge. That's it.
That's what kind of makes Formula One so unique. And actually, we talked about this today, Daryl. You and I did earlier this morning.
Yeah, we were talking about it in the text. A lot of people talk about Formula One going more spec, but it would be, as much as I'd hate to say it, it would be antithetical to how the sport even works. Now, we need 3 more teams, but that's a conversation for another day. We should have another one coming with Andretti, but the Euro snob is clearly on display. But Formula One was built on privateer teams and constructors, and car manufacturers coming together, building their car from scratch, and racing it against each other. If they were to go full on into the make them spec, it would be antithetical to the entire series, and it wouldn't be Formula One anymore.
It wouldn't.
Yeah, that's what. So someone, I forget what podcast it was. I think it was Mistake.
That's like if WEC went spec.
But they had an American listener on, and they were kind of asking what kind of racing fan that she was. Is she a motorhead who just loves racing altogether? Is she more engineering based, where like she really likes the development of the cars, or is she like talent based, where she likes the drivers and stuff like that? And she kind of said, like, I'm all of them. Like, Formula One from an American standpoint in motorsports is very unique because we do not have anything that is like what Formula One is here.
Yeah.
Right? We don't really have, like, I mean, you look at almost any racing series in the United States, right down to your local sportsman, or, the sportsmen's at your local dirt track. They're all spec cars. That's all we have here in the United States.
Yeah.
And so Formula One is really what you would consider like the mechanical engineering based, or engineering interested fan sport. Like as much as we get on here and talk about the stars of the sports, your Lewis Hamiltons, your Max Verstappens, your Charles Leclerc, these guys are nothing without the engineers that build these cars.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Lewis Hamilton is not getting in a 2021 Haas and scoring a point. It just doesn't happen.
It really does.
Which, by the way, I hate when people say that. Like, oh, well, if he was in the Haas, he wouldn't be winning like that. Nobody would. The Haas drivers aren't winning in the Haas.
And I think that's kind of the challenge of Formula One, honestly, is like you're told hey, get in this piece of shite car and win the championship.
Well, I don't think anybody at Haas was expecting points last year, much less a win.
Yeah, so you're getting told, hey, get points and win championships in this car. And if you don't do it, well, we have this F2 driver we can replace you with, and that F2 driver has another F2 driver we can replace him with.
Yep.
Another thing I like about motorsports, though, really, is that a lot of these manufacturers we can really go and support by honestly buying their cars.
Yep. Which, by the way, while I'm sitting here, I just saw something come up on the Formula One Facebook. Today in 2002, Michael Schumacher won his 5th championship at the British Grand Prix, which was race 10 of a 17-race championship.
And that the championship was small.
My suggestion is to all the NASCAR fans who like a season-long championship, start watching Formula One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially now, because it actually seems closer.
If you hate the playoffs, stick it to the man. Watch the European racing series.
Yeah, watch NASCAR. If you want really close racing, watch the GT3 series, because there's always a GT3 championship out there.
There's so many GT3 championships.
And watch IMSA. IMSA's a heck of a lot of fun. But like I was about to say, one of the things I like about motorsports is that, you can go out and buy these guys' cars, really. You can see a Corvette win the 24 Hours of Le Mans and say, man, I want to buy a Corvette. And then you go and buy him a Corvette. I think that's the coolest thing about sports car racing and motorsports.
Mm-hmm.
Is like you can support your favorite manufacturers.
See, I've never had that inclination to go buy a Chevy because Alex Bowman won the race. I mean, I've never had that. And personally, I don't understand people that do that. If I'm being blatantly honest, I don't go support sponsors for the hell of supporting sponsors, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. Like, well, I guess like Red Bull, like they're the only energy drink that I even like. Long before I was, really even knew what Formula One even was. Like middle school, I had decided I didn't like Monster at all. Red Bull was my drink, and like I don't like chocolate. I don't like M&Ms. That doesn't mean that I don't, like Kyle Busch or nothing like that. I don't let the sponsors or the manufacturers or anything really influence my purchasing.
Well, I'm kind of a fan of like manufacturers. So like if I like, for example, you guys know I like Toyota, so seeing them win like the 24 Hours of Le Mans, it's just like, oh man, I want to go get a Toyota now.
My dream car is an Aston Martin DB9, but I do not like Lawrence Stroll.
I don't think there's a lot of people that like Lawrence Stroll.
I don't like Lance either, for the record.
Join the club on that one.
Oh, no. The thing about that was, like, I remember when he first started, I think I was the only one that was like, I actually don't really like this guy. And everybody
gave him a chance.
No, he's
The
fine.
wet weather specialists.
I don't know who coined that. He was a wet weather specialist. That was so dumb. But
it's because he got the pole one time, right?
Yeah, he got the pole one time at Turkey. All of a sudden, he's a wet weather specialist. Calm down, guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's got a podium, man. That's cool. Where was all that now?
Yeah. Well, and while we're sitting here, we're getting close to nearest the win, so I want to touch on this real quick. Indycar. First race specifically on Peacock with the Toronto Grand Prix. Now, personally, not big of a fan for me right now of the streaming only races. I know it had much less commercials compared to the other races, which is a great opportunity. Results on Twitter that I saw were a bit mixed, but the race came down to Scott Dixon picking up win number 52 and adding another bullet point to his Hall of Fame career. He is now tied for second in the wins category with Mario Andretti.
Nice.
AJ Foyt leads that with, I think, 91. That's never going to be topped at this point. They ran a lot more races back in the day. But
I'm pretty upset about the streaming thing, as you guys know.
Mm-hmm.
So Alex Bowman got wrecked out of the race pretty early. I had little to no interest left in my second least favorite track on the schedule, and I think I was very clear in my group text my frustration at the fact that I could not watch the IndyCar, and instead the World Athletic Championship was on, which I didn't even click on to.
Hey,
Either way, it was BS that IndyCar wasn't on TV.
Look, that is the World Cup of athletics, so there's a lot going on there. It's very exciting, but, I get it, but I said it in our chat. It's really auspicious that they decided to get rid of the NBC Sports channel and then still have all these sports around and all these contracts they have to fulfill. Probably wasn't the greatest idea.
It just makes me want Amazon and Netflix and HBO to just buy up sports. You know what I mean? Like, I know that. So, from what I understand, ESPN got the Formula One contract for the next 5 years or whatever. But Amazon or Netflix, one of the two, I can't remember which, were really up there in the running, but Formula One and Liberty Media did not want to switch over to or commit to streaming only yet.
No, they want that terrestrial audience, and honestly, if they were going to commit to that, I think ESPN would give them the best path compared to what goes on with Amazon, because you've already got the sports there and you've already got the reputation, and ESPN is ready to invest because they weren't expecting to have this audience that they now have, and now they're willing to throw their weight behind it. I think they're planning on doing some more things with Formula One, which I'm excited for. Please bring Bob Varsha back.
So I'll be excited if it ends up on Disney Plus. Right? I don't think it will, but Disney does own ESPN. And I am a Disney Plus subscriber, so I would personally like to see it there, not on ESPN something, and this is a topic that we don't need to spend too much time on, but with everybody doing streaming now, it's no different than cable's the better option at this point, because everybody is doing their own streaming service, and now you're just racking up so much money in television costs that I would rather just go back to cable or go back to 2 or 3 big giants of media streaming. Give me Netflix, HBO, and Hulu and Prime, and that's all I need, right? I don't need ESPN to have their own dedicated channel separate than Disney and wax me for another $10.99 a month. I'm already paying $14.99 for Disney Plus. What the hell do I need to pay another $10 for ESPN for? It's just getting frustrating. Life has become microtransactions. That is what I've decided.
Speaking of
finally,
you're about to go right where I'm going with the BMW thing.
Seats.
I've been waiting.
Oh my God!
So long for somebody
$10
to
bucks
say
a month.
Life is turning into microtransactions.
It really is. Is
I've been
EA
waiting
Sports
forever
running
for
my life
somebody
right now?
to admit that.
It's $189 a year for some heated seats, and I bought.
Yeah.
Let me go see how much a BMW is right now.
I'd rather do.
Does anyone remember what car that was in?
No.
Oh, God.
Got to be some bougie one though, because nobody's paying $180 for heated seats.
Okay.
And that's only going to work in the north too. No one in Florida
I've been
buying
waiting
heated
for
seats.
so long for somebody to admit that.
It's the dumbest thing. I've heard a lot of dumb things in my life, and that's up there. As I'm drinking beer.
$10 a month for something, and if I buy a car, a BMW, right? Average cost of a BMW is what I wanted to look at, because I think it's
the hardware is already there. You're just buying the software to turn the thing on.
Hold on. If I'm buying a $65,000 car, and you're telling me I got to pay $10 a month to have heated seats, I would get dragged out of that dealership by the police. Straight up. I'm putting $65K down for a car, and I got to pay an extra how much for heated seats? Have you lost your mind?
Well, I hope they don't charge by the year. I hope it's month, because I ain't paying no $10 in the middle of July when it's 100 degrees outside. I have heated seats. It's called the freaking sun.
Oh my gosh! Do not remind me. Thank God I have cloth seats in my car. But
I do too. But that doesn't mean it's not hot in there.
Oh, it's hot, but it's not as bad.
That day,
that's not saying much.
So I recorded. It's actually in the drafts in our TikTok. I recorded. So I did that build a Formula One team, and then like 2 days ago after work, I sat in my car and I filmed one for building a terrible Formula One team. And actually, so I did that, right? And I was like legit sweating after. So that thing is hard to do, by the way. If you guys want to do that, that's freaking difficult, right?
It looks difficult.
Because you're recording it and you got to remember what you've already done. So I've done it a couple times, but the last time, like, you literally sit there with a piece of paper and you're trying to like discreetly write off camera what you did so you remember. So I did it I only think I did it 3 times for like the build the best team. I did it 3 times because I did 2 power units, and then the second time I did 2 team principals. And then for the worst team, I actually got a phone call twice in the middle of it, and it kind of like screwed it up. But by the end of that, I was probably in my car for 5 minutes doing it, and I was legit like sweat pouring off me. But I didn't want like the AC messing up the audio. But
yes, please be careful. Yeah, please be careful this weekend, y'all. If y'all gonna be outside, this heat is nothing to play with. It'll kill you as quickly as the cold will, and probably quicker. So please be careful. So we got 6 minutes left before we're going to hand over to Mr. Parsons. So let's go ahead and quickly get into nearest the win. Another triple weekend with NASCAR in Pocono, Formula One in France, and Indycar in Iowa, where they'll be racing in the cornfield. I will start with Formula One. I'm going to take Checo only because I'm not ready to commit to Hamilton winning, as Chris is over there rocking out with his hair. Chris, who you got this week?
Who did I pick last week?
You and I both picked Max last time.
Oh, shoot. I'm gonna pick Lewis, because I need to start besting you, so I can't just pick what you pick to cover you. And I don't know which Ferrari's catching on fire this week, if it's gonna be one or both or what. So I'm gonna hedge my bets on Lewis Hamilton, because last time I picked George Russell and I screwed him, right? The first time
he got screwed immediately
all season, and I took that personally. So we're gonna take Lewis. Worst case scenario, DNFs, right? pretty much solidifies Max as champion.
Yeah, I wish it didn't take Michael Jordan as long to take his pit crew struggles on his 23 car, personally. But anyway, Michael, who you got?
I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc.
Throwing it out there. Okay.
That's a bold strategy.
Now we have NASCAR. We have
What's that,
NASCAR
Michael?
come.
I said I don't care.
Nah, it's okay. My season's up in flames, too.
So now we have NASCAR in Pocono, and I'm going to throw a curveball. I think Ryan Blaney gets off the schneid and will be number 15 to lock himself in to the playoffs.
That's where Blaney got his first win, right? It was Pocono?
Yep.
Yeah. Michael, why don't you go first this time?
For Pocono,
Yeah.
I'm going to say Truex gets in.
This is difficult.
And remember, this could end up being a fuel mileage race, so someone we don't expect to win could end up picking up the win.
Yeah. This is freaking tough.
Arthur's picking Kevin Harvick, of course.
That's more bold than Michael picking Charles Leclerc.
Yep.
This is a lot of pressure, guys. I really so I keep coming back to Chase, right? Like I keep every time I think like, oh, what about this guy? It's like, nope, Chase. What about this guy? Nope, Chase. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go with Chase Elliott. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Lock it in. That's my final answer.
Final pick is IndyCar at Iowa. I'm going to take the points leader, Marcus Ericsson, to get weight. I think I picked him already. So I'm going to audibilize that. And instead of Ericsson, I'm going to take... Graham Rahal did not help me out at all. I'm actually going to take the person with the best racing name ever. Will Power gets the win this weekend. Christopher Michael, who you got?
So, since I couldn't pick a Dutchman in Formula One, I am going to pick the Dutchman of IndyCar, Mr. VK.
Man, you talking about you and Dutchman, man.
Yeah.
I think the Netherlands will love you.
I've been to the Netherlands and I love them.
Nice. Michael, who you got?
I am going to go with Scott McLaughlin.
I love Scott McLaughlin.
Same. He's been doing so well this year. But hey, we are right up against it. Don't have a long time for the long intro this time. Make sure you keep it locked to our TikTok. Thank you to everyone that has been participating in the After the Laps. Make sure you lock it in to the Extra Mile on Twitter as well. And make sure you follow all the iSports Radio social medias on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok as well. Arthur Parsons coming up next, the Bayou Bulletin. For Christopher and Michael, I'm Daryl. This has been the Extra Mile, and we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.